Hello everyone. Today I'd like to discuss a couple of frequently asked questions that A2 psychology students usually have. Now, I have tried listing these questions down. They turned out to be the ones that I could recall. They turned out to be around 10 questions. Without any further ado, let's begin. The first question that we have over here is, what does good range of issues mean in a 10-mark evaluative question in paper 3? Now, we all know we have two papers that a student has to sit for in A2 Psychology, paper 3 and paper 4, respectively. In paper 3, we come across a 10-mark question right after the 6-mark descriptive question. If you have a look at the marking scheme for this particular question, the examiner states a good range of issues for students who would want to score in the top band. Top band, that means the students who would want to score between 9 to 10 marks. Now, about a good range of issues, the word range is being used over here. Of course, if you're using one issue, that's not a range. If you're using two issues, that is a range, but I'd say that's a limited range. The best way to go about with this is to use three issues, right? Three issues that include the named issue as well. That would be considered as a good range. Now, when we talk about there are certain students who end up asking, oh sir, what if we want to use four issues? I mean, that's on your discretion. I wouldn't advise that. Remember, you being timed. Every single minute while you're sitting for your examination counts. So using three issues that includes the name issue would be considered as a good range that would help you score in the top band, that is between 9 to 10 marks. One. Number two, do 10-mark evaluative questions in paper 3 require a conclusion? Of course they do, right? So if you're talking about what I typically advise students is to plan up an answer or to practice questions keeping 5 paragraphs in mind. The first one being the introduction, the last one being a conclusion, right? Introduction for aesthetics, maybe, but the conclusion is pretty important, right? So ideally 5 paragraphs, the first one being an introduction, the second being the named issue, and then two other issues followed by the last paragraph, that would be the conclusion. Now, if I speak about the marking scheme, the marking scheme over here reads, the top band of the mark scheme states detailed evaluation of the psychological theories, research, approaches, explanations, and treatment slash therapies. This is for clinical psychology. And the second point over here says analysis is evident throughout. Now, your conclusion shows your analysis, and that is why I say a conclusion is a must. Now, moving on to the third question. The third question that we have over here is, how much detail is required for a 6-mark descriptive question in paper 3? To begin with, remember, quality matters more than quantity, right? There are many students who have raised this question, this concern, that how much is enough for us to be able to score a 6 on 6. Now, the best piece that the best way I could try to figure this out is through this specimen paper. If you have a look at the specimen paper, the answer that has been published by the CAI, they have used 244 words. There are 244 words that have been used in that specific answer where the student has scored a 6 on 6, right? Now, for 244 words, again, the size of your writing matters, how big or small, if I may use the word font is, that matters. There are students who'd come up with answers. They're like, sir, would half page be enough? Would one page be enough? So let's not calculate, or let's not try to figure this out through the length of the page or the width of the page. Let's use the number of words that you're using. That would be better. So if the specimen paper had an answer that had 244 words, I think anything around rather 250 words should be enough. One. Number two, remember your time. As I had mentioned earlier, you need to keep this in mind. Your clock keeps on ticking, right? The clock keeps on ticking, and like I had mentioned earlier, every single minute over here counts. A basic calculation for every single mark, we get 1.5 minutes. Remember, it's a 60-mark paper. For that, we get 90 minutes in total, so that makes it 1.5 minutes per mark. As per that calculation, we'd have around 9 minutes. So see if you could write around 250 words in 9 minutes, and then pick up content from the syllabus to practice, right? So I hope that has helped. Moving on to the next question. So clarity on key studies versus non-key study aspects of the syllabus. If we talk about the change, the recent change that the CI has had from 2024 onwards, now the for every component, remember our syllabus has four different components. We have clinical psychology, we have health psychology, we have organizational psychology, and we have consumer behavior, right? So consumer psychology, four different components. So for every component, if I may use the example of clinical psychology, we have five different key studies. We have five different key studies. In other words, there's a separate key study for every unit, right? For health psychology, if I use the component health psychology over here, the five different units we have are: number one, patient practitioner relationship; number two, adherence to medical advice; number three, pain; number four, stress; number five, health promotion. So for every unit, that is every chapter, we have a particular key study, right? Now, about this key study, what all do we need to prepare for, right? Does the student only have to learn specific details from the key study or other aspects of the syllabus as well? So you could get specific questions, or this says specific questions can be asked about key studies, right? Specific questions could be asked about key studies, specific questions about the context of the study, the main theories that are involved there, the aim, the hypothesis, the research methodology, the sample demography, uh, sampling technique, if it has been mentioned in the book, the procedure, of course, the findings of the research, the technique that has been used to get to those findings, your findings, your results, your conclusion, and additionally main points regarding those particular studies. So for every student, you'd be studying two different components, right? For instance, if I say we're studying health psychology and clinical psychology, remember, for every component there are 5 units, and for every unit there's a specific study. In other words, I'm saying there are 10 studies, and there are 10 key studies rather. There are 10 key studies that we need to prepare for real well, and you would get specific questions on these particular key studies, right? Which would help you with paper 3 and paper 4 both. Now, I hope this has helped. Moving on to the fifth question. For design a study question, what is the difference between state reasons for your choice of sampling technique and explain one strength of your choice of sampling technique? Now, if you have a look at the specimen paper, you'd know what I'm talking about. These questions, they come right after the designing of a study question, right? Now, many students, they confuse because, if you have a look at these, if I may highlight them, state two reasons for your choice of sampling technique and explain one strength of your choice of sampling technique. I've come across many students who ask about the difference between these two questions. Now, see, for the first question over here, it says state two reasons for your choice. Now, for your choice, they're specifically referring to you, the study that you've designed. What is the reason? What are the two reasons that you would provide for choosing that particular sampling technique? I'm referring to the specimen paper over here, right? So for the first question, you're expected to give two reasons as to why you did it in relation to the study that you've designed, right? However, for the second question, that is this one that I'm referring to over here, explain one strength of the choice of sampling technique. Now, the first answer you wrote was in relation to the study you designed, right? The second answer, the answer to the second question is about the strength, or could be a limitation as well. It could be it would be a strength. It would be a strength, and that is why you used it, or you chose that particular sampling technique. So explain one strength of your choice of sampling technique. The second one, the answer to this is, what was so good about it, or what do you think was a plus point of that particular sampling technique that has been used. Now, moving on to the sixth question over here. For questions following the designer study question, do students need to describe the procedure or the results as well? Now, remember when the examiner or when Cambridge uses the word psychological knowledge, for a question following the designer study question. Yeah, so we're talking about psychological knowledge when the examiner tests you or demands knowledge, demands uh, your knowledge on the psychology that has been involved while you designed your study. So the underlying theory. is required over here. They're not exactly asking you about the procedure or the result, but what is the psychology that is being investigated over here that could be put to use. The term psychological knowledge can therefore include anything that is included in a research paper. That could be its theory, its methodology, or in its true essence, the psychology being investigated. Moving on, the seventh question over here for students who have opted for clinical psychology. uh, should we use the DSM or the ICD? We would be aware, if you are a student who's preparing for clinical psychology, you would be aware that the DSM, that is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, is published by APA till 2024. We always, the books, the syllabuses, the Cambridge endorsed and published books, the Oxford published books, the syllabus in itself always used to use the DSM. However, from now onwards, that is 2024 onwards, now the syllabus has the syllabus is using the ICD. The ICD published by the World Health Organization. Since DSM is specific to USA. There are many people. I know it's more popular, but then it has been published by the American Psychological Association. That is probably one of the reasons why the CIE has moved from the DSM to the ICD that is published by the World Health Organization, WHO. So the answer to this question over here is, to be 100% safe, go with the ICD. The marking schemes will only use the ICD. However, there will always be some overlap of features that will appear on both the DSM and the ICD. Now, I hope that's clear. The eighth question that we have over here: is it advised to prepare for more than two components? No, I'd say no. You're not just reading through the syllabus. You have to read it, you have to understand it. Then you have to prepare yourself, keeping in mind the CAIE paper structure and the marking mechanism. And that takes a lot of time. So it's advised by, I'd like to advise, the CI does that too, that you study only for two components. Now, and another question or in relation to this one is it possible for a student to answer uh, questions from two particular components in paper 3 and another component that is a separate component from paper 4? Yes, the CI would grade that, but then it's illogical for you to study something. Over the summers, when you are when you have your vacations, you could read it through if you feel like, but then in terms of your CI preparation, it is not recommended at all. So it's better that you decide what two components you want to study and then stick to them. Now, the last question over here, the second last question rather, can the topics tested in P3 be tested in P4? Now, when we speak about the topics being tested in P3 being tested, or the possibility of them being tested again in P4, uh let's stick to uh what the examiners have to say over here. And according to David Clark, he quotes, I'd like to quote: candidates must revise all 5 topic areas, as all 5 could appear in questions across 2 papers. For each topic area on paper 3 and paper 4, a question could be asked from any of the 3 subtopics on that area. Now, what I get from this is, you're strongly advised to prepare all the topics. And yes, there's this the word topic, or the word topic area is being used over here. So there's the way I read it, the way I get it, you wouldn't get a question from the specifically same topic. Nonetheless, topics around that particular area, yeah, there's always a possibility that you might end up getting a question on them. So if you've had a question on, let's just say, the biological, psychological, cognitive, or any other explanation from any on based on any unit from clinical psychology, you might not get a question specifically on the same thing on paper 4, but besides that, there's always a possibility. Now, the last one over here: how do I start with my CAIE preparation? Now, that question, I believe that's the most frequent question that I come across, especially as we get closer to our CI examinations. Uh, The first piece of advice, get started. Don't wait for tomorrow. If you're watching this today, start right off, start today. Remember when I said we have two different components that we need to prepare from, and every component has 5 different units, and every unit has a key study. So what I'd advise is you read through a particular unit. Like for instance, for health psychology, the first unit, patient practitioner relationship, you read through the entire unit or the chapter from your Cambridge endorsed book by Julia Russell's. That's the most recommended. You read through that first, and then you focus on the key study. You focus on the key elements from the key study. Now, focusing on the, what does it mean when I say focus on the key elements of the key study, the elements that I mentioned earlier, starting off right from the context of the study, right till the conclusion, anything and everything in between, you need to prepare yourself, and you need to prepare yourself real well. And after this change in the CI paper pattern structure and the syllabus, now you'd have questions based on AO1, that is knowledge understanding, in paper 4 as well. So you might as well get specific questions on this one. Number two, what I advise students is for paper 3 specifically. Now, once you're done reading through the entire unit well, once you're done learning the key study and different elements of the key study really well, then you move on and then you start preparing for the 6-mark questions. Now, these 6-mark questions, you'd get them on the different bullets. Now, have a look at the syllabus, go back. I mean, you could Google the syllabus, 990 A level psychology syllabus 2024 onwards. The bullets that you come across, right? You could get a 6-mark question on them. Now, these bullets that you come across, prepare yourself for a 6-mark question, and then right after the 6-mark question, you'd come across a 10-mark question too. So as you'd be preparing for the 6-mark questions, you'd very soon realize that you're actually covering the entire syllabus as well. So yeah, it might take time. You might want to set targets. You might want to learn uh, 2 bullet points a day. And by learn, I mean learn it well. And by learn, I mean you practice writing a 6-mark answer on it. By learn, I mean you also practice the evaluative question right after the 6-mark question too. So if you, once you're done preparing yourself for the 6 and the 10-mark questions, remember 6 and 10 makes it 16. So if I may use examples of a student who is preparing for clinical psychology and health psychology, that is 16 marks from clinical psychology and 16 marks from health psychology. 32 marks out of 60 you're already done. And by the time you'd be covering the syllabus, you'd realize that you are actually, I mean, by the time you're covering these bullets, you'd realize that you're actually covering the entire syllabus too. So the key is get started, time yourself. You might as well uh, plan it up according to how it works the best for you. I understand there are other subjects you all would have to, so you might as well plan it according to the calendar, the amount of days that you're left with. You might have to do 2 bullets a day, you might have to do 3 bullets a day, but then the key over here is to get started. I hope this has been helpful, and I could go on and on with this, but I wouldn't want to take a lot of time. And take good care of yourselves. Thank you.